Hey everybody, welcome to the Live at Epiphan show. I like seeing that front end bumper of the show and reminding me of when we actually used to go into the office and I would get to hang out with my friend Greg Quirk, who's here with me today. Hi, Greg.
Hey, and I'm actually in the office because I was having internet problems at home. So fortunately, there's no one else here. So it's all safe. But yeah, I'm actually in the office and get to remember what it looks like.
Yeah, everything's still there. All of our stuff is still there. No one's stolen my desk.
No, but it's looking pretty good.
Nice. Yeah, well, hopefully someday we'll get to hang out again. There's Greg in the studio, our old studio. I'm all sentimental here. So anyway, welcome to the show. Today, we're going to be talking about AI transcription accuracy. So you know about AI transcription. You see it in things like your phones when you do use Siri or the better working ones like Google's. But there's a lot of potential for this technology. And Greg, we've done some testing recently, haven't we?
Yeah, we did. So we actually wrote a paper that we submitted to NAB, and I was actually supposed to be presenting on that yesterday.
Right.
So in what they've decided to do instead is they're doing NAB Express. And so the paper has been submitted, and we're submitting slides as well as a video for the end of the month, so start of May. And then they're going to post those and have those available as part of NAB Express in mid-May. And so you could actually read the entire paper and watch a 15-minute long video of the results that we found and the information from doing the accuracy test we did.
Sweet.
We did also do a webinar about a month ago that did talk at a high level about the accuracy and the testing that we did. Didn't go into as much detail as it will, but did cover some of that stuff. But the general feedback from the paper we did, the research we did, we looked at companies like Google, Amazon, IBM, and we looked at them from an accuracy standpoint, noise resilience, latency, things like that, to determine whether or not AI-based solutions are good enough for real-time applications. And the overall result is they are. We've been playing around with it for about 6 months or so. Part of the reason we're doing the show now is because we officially launched LiveScrypt as a product 2 days ago. So we've talked about it, we pre-announced it, but it is now officially available. People can order it from us, and we've already got a ton of orders. People are really excited about this, and so we wanted to talk a little bit about it on the show.
That's right. And so we've already done quite a bit of press about our offering in this category, the hardware called LiveScrypt for live transcription. And today we're going to show you how that works, but we're not going to focus too much on the nitty-gritty of the product. We kind of want to get you to see how accurate this really is. So at some point we'll flip it over to the demo and we'll show it to you so you can see if we're making this stuff up or not. So, well, Greg, I know what you think. You think it's accurate enough to be a viable solution for people, don't you?
I definitely do. And the thing that we found is if your transcription is 90% or more accurate, people are able to follow along with what is being presented and understand these are the results. They will understand it's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's going to be good enough they can follow along if it's over 90% accurate. And the testing that we've done has shown that, yeah, it is over that 90% range.
Well, how accurate is a human, to put that in perspective? You say 90%. So what am I?
Well, you.
Maybe not me. What's a normal human, okay?
So there are some things that come into play when you're talking about a person. Okay, so an average typical person is going to be about 92% accurate when they're typing on a computer. But there's some things that impact that, right? So if I'm typing on a computer for 45 minutes straight, my accuracy level isn't going to be at that 92% by the end of that 45 minutes. I'm going to get tired, I'm going to get worn out, and my accuracy isn't going to be that high. Another factor to consider is the fact that a transcriptionist is listening to what is being said, processing it, and typing it out. So if you've ever sat and tried to type out the lyrics from a song, and you've heard the song 100 times before, you know the words, but trying to type them while someone is singing them, you can't keep up, and your accuracy level
Yeah.
is not going to be very good when you're typing a song you're hearing, and that's something you already know, let alone trying to do it on someone talking and you have no idea what they're going to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you have Keith Richards or someone like that, it's going to be much harder to translate. So, well, why don't we show it off? Why don't you take a minute and pull it up, and we'll actually put this on the screen so people can see it transcribing what we're talking about right now. And you'll see, I'm pretty sure you're going to see it keeps up pretty quickly. So Greg has a copy. In fact, it's in another room right now, Greg. You don't have it sitting beside you on the desk. We're talking about a piece of hardware that's plugged in and it's on the network.
Yep.
So Greg's going to pull up the web portal, the control system for managing this. Am I right?
Correct. So we actually have 3 different ways to control it. So we've got the hardware device itself, where you can push the start button. You'll see the transcription on it.
On the touch screen, right on the device, right? Yeah.
Correct. You can access it through a web portal, which is a replication of that front touch screen, but you can do it from a computer, or you can do it through AV Studio, which is what you're seeing on the screen right now.
Okay, this way you can control it from anywhere, right?
Pretty much. And as you can see, the results are popping up on the screen. And this is what would be output to a monitor in the room, or it's even streamed to a website. So you can see it's going to avstudio.com/some information /liveshow161, because this is live show 161.
Cool. So how are we doing? I can't quite see it because my little confidence monitor that I've got set up on my screen is quite small. I know we're going to flip to a larger version of this soon to see how accurate it really is. And theoretically, you said it would be what, 90-something% accurate. Is that right?
Yeah, it's going to be in the low to mid 90% range. Certain things it will not be able to do properly. So for example, when I said avstudio.com, it doesn't know that AV Studio is a proper term. And not yet. And so it does put up the wrong information for something like that. But if someone is conversing and talking, it does a very good job of understanding what is being said, transcribing the information, and displaying it.
Yeah, I can see it right now, and it's looking pretty solid. I'd love to know in the comments, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, let us know what you think of this. In fact, I didn't actually pull up my YouTube screen right now, but maybe our producer can pass through any comments that are of interest, or if you want us to try something. We did some tests earlier, I remember, where we did some really technical speak. We pulled in medical library books and read into it, and it seemed to handle those technical terms amazingly well, actually. Which I guess isn't that surprising, because in fact, it's very good at these long-winded words. They might be easier to pick up on. The challenges are the ums and ahs. I don't know how you would describe that, Greg, but that part of our speech, right?
Yeah, and it does a really good job of, as you mentioned, those bigger words, those more complex words, and those are the words that a normal person is going to stumble on because they don't know how to type those words. They're not common ones that are being used, especially when you're looking at medical terms or technical terms. Unless you're in the industry, you aren't necessarily going to know how to spell those terms out. It's the smaller words where it sometimes has a little bit more of a challenge, because there are multiple different variations on the same word, and it has to try to understand, well, which version do I use?
Sure.
Or those are words that people kind of slur when they're talking. And so, it will put up words, but that's where that accuracy level isn't going to hit that 100%. But it's also, those are the words where if you're reading through it, they're the ones you can easily substitute as a viewer, as a reader into this content, to go, oh, this is the word that is being presented, but based on the context, I know that this is actually what the person is meaning to say.
Nice. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to be excited about using this. Who do you think are the people most in need of a transcription service? We've talked about a lot of crazy stories from people in warehouses needing it, and but you'd know better than anybody. Can you give me the rundown of the people you think are most excited for this product?
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. So, when we first came out with the product, we had certain markets and certain verticals that we had in mind. Events was going to be one of the bigger ones because, as a company, that's kind of a market that we play largely into, same as education. Um, but things have changed a little bit. And so we are getting a lot of interest from some applications that we didn't necessarily expect to see this level of interest from. So warehouse was one that you had mentioned, where I've had a number of discussions with some companies, and every morning they have their warehouse staff come together and the manager does a presentation, not a presentation, but a speech on what's going on that day and what
Sure.
needs to happen. And some of their employees have hearing challenges, or in some cases, it's a large group where the manager has to grab a bullhorn so that everyone in the back can actually hear what's going on. And so they're looking at something like LiveScrypt where they could have it being displayed on a TV in the room, a big TV. So no matter who's in the room, they can see what's being said so everyone knows what's happening.
Right.
um, talk to a number of companies where when they have meetings, they have someone sit in the room taking notes. Well, that's a person sitting in the room and all they're doing is taking notes. And they're talking about having LiveScrypt in those meeting rooms so that they get a text transcription of everything that was said. So they have a record of it without having someone sit there and take notes the entire time. Um, so yeah, it's
Right.
some really neat applications that people are seeing LiveScrypt being used for.
So let's pull up the, we've got a comment here from Tim Trott, it looks like. Churches would be a prime audience. Unquestionably, right? That must be one that you've been hearing from.
Yeah, it definitely is, and the couple that I mentioned, the warehouses and the meeting rooms are places where we hadn't really seen or envisioned a lot of interest.
Right.
Education, events, houses of worship, legislature, and corporate applications, so like town hall meetings. Those were kind of the five we were envisioning originally. But churches is another great one where it's expanded beyond what we had originally thought. So, when I had thought of doing it for a house of worship application, it was your sermon on Saturday nights and twice on Sunday mornings, and that was going to be about it. But we've talked to a number of places that they're saying, well, someone's getting married. Well, we actually want to have a transcription of the wedding ceremony so that we have their vows of what they actually said.
Yes, it's possible that this tool becomes not so much an industry-specific tool. What I'm trying to say is it might just be a tool within all AV producers just have ready. So the same way they have different kinds of cameras and different kinds of switchers and different kinds of audio equipment, they might just have one of these as part of their kit and they pull it out for random events here, there, and everywhere.
Yep.
If live transcription becomes something that's more in demand for meeting the hearing challenges of people or physical challenges and that they can't get close enough to the speaker, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let's pull it up again. Let's see how accurate this is. That's what the show is all about today. So we can pull it up and test it. Because one of the things that is interesting is how it does with two people speaking. And there is a word that sounds like diarrhea called diarization. Is that right, Greg?
Correct. Speaker diarization.
I never like saying that word. I avoid it at all costs.
And it does type it out properly. So speaker diarization is basically differentiating between multiple speakers. So if you're talking or I'm talking, the system will be able to hear that the pitch is different, the tone is different, to know that speaker A and speaker B are different people. And so I'm going to distinguish those, whether it's color coordinated or we put a name in front of it or some way to indicate that it's not just one big massive paragraph, it's multiple people that are speaking.
And is that something that we're going to be looking into, or what's our plan for that?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely one of the top 5 features that I want to look at. Now that the product is launched, we're looking at, okay, it's out, it's great. We're getting people interested and they're going to start using it and get us some feedback on what their experience has been. But in my
I'd be excited to see how well it does, because you can hear there, like I'm talking over you half the time, right? And when you're in a real group environment, there's quite a lot of overlap with those different voices. But theoretically, an AI system should be able to distinguish those even when they're overlapped. So I'm excited to see if that really is the case.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so this is our version of AI transcription. It's through a hardware, and we've designed this to be the sort of the easiest way to bring transcription services into a room, like an in-room experience.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they hear live transcription, they think about the post-production. So tell us, maybe distinguish like why there's, some people are going to say, well, why can't I use all those services I see online doing transcription services? So what's the difference between those and what we've developed, Greg?
Yeah, and the word you use there is the difference. It's post-production versus live real-time transcription. So the idea is with a lot of the services that are available, whether they're using AI-based systems or they have not volunteers, or they have freelancers or a staff of people that will do the transcription, you would take a video file or an audio file and you would upload it to a website after an event. And then after a certain amount of time, usually depending on how much you paid, whether it's hours or minutes or days later, you would get your transcription, which is great for post-production purposes.
For sure, yeah, yeah.
But if I'm in a room and I'm experiencing this event live, I want to know what's happening now, not watch a video of it tomorrow or next week. Because otherwise, why am I bothering being in the room live right now? And so that's where something like LiveScrypt comes into play, is because it does real-time live transcription. So as we've had the system up and running and we flip to it, it is transcribing exactly what we're saying directly right now.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, like as the show is titled, How Accurate Is It? If you really want to dive into those results, I'd suggest we won't cover the like really nerdy details on that now, because we did that a few weeks ago in this webinar, which you can find on our YouTube channel. And we'll also be promoting our upcoming NAB paper on the subject, where you go pretty nerdy on this. Am I right, Greg? You get into the WER. I don't even know what that stands for, but I saw it listed many times.
Yeah, so we go into the word error rate analysis that we did on Amazon, IBM, and Google. And word error rate is basically how many changes do you have to make from a transcription to have it match the live actual, what was being said. We ran it through a bunch of tests. There's, information on exactly how we did those tests. We also did it on analysis for things like noise resilience and latency and a bunch of different aspects of it. And so, yeah, we did go into a fair amount of detail. I think the paper was 16 to 20 pages long, give or take. So it is, fairly detailed. And I don't want to get into all of that right now, but the general highlight is it is accurate enough, and we've got solutions that are being used. So
that's right. And really, it looks like all these engines from Amazon to Google and IBM, they all came out really strong in this. And we happen to be using Google's, is that right?
Yeah, we use Google's. We did analyze them all. We also did look at building our own transcription model at one point. We had it up and running. It's a lot of work to continually update it, continually make it better. And these companies like Amazon, Google, and IBM, they're doing that work on their end because, as you mentioned at the start of the show, consumers are already using this technology in a lot of the products that they're using today. So things like Google Now or Alexa are using the same type of technology, and we're basically just applying it to a different type of application.
That's right. So they're capturing data at an unbelievable rate, and then they can use that data to build use machine learning and that data to build these incredible engines that, honestly, I don't know how the independent companies do it. I know there's a few out there that advertise themselves as, no, we compete on the same level as Google, and they may well, but I cannot imagine how impossibly big a task that is. So why not take advantage of these great tools that are already, it just makes a lot of sense, right? We're all contributing our voice all the time to the cloud services. So why not use that for our advantage?
Yeah, and you were just asking earlier about how accurate these things are, and all three of those are in that 90-ish+% range. So they're all fairly comparable. The only reason we went with Google is because the API and the documentation were just a little bit more clear to us. So when we were trying to figure out how to implement it with all
Mhm.
of the features and things like that, there were just some documentation aspects for Google that we kind of liked a little bit better, and it was a little bit more clear. But in terms of capability, they're all really powerful, and they're all really good to
They are.
use.
And so, like, we know they're powerful. We know they do a very good job. Where does a human win, and where does the AI win? The man versus machine. Like, tell me that whole who comes out of that alive.
Sure. And there definitely are some areas where a person is going to do a better job than a machine is. So things like when there's a really heavy accent, a person is able to listen to that and understand it a little bit
Mm,
better because you get used to it after time, right? When someone
true.
is talking with a heavy accent, after hearing it for a while and piecing it together, you're like, oh, that's what that person means and is what they're saying. Whereas a computer can't really adapt to that. It can handle accents, but if it's a thick accent, it doesn't have a clue what that person is going to be saying.
Right. I
Um,
imagine that will improve. Hopefully, that will improve over time.
it, and it definitely has, and it definitely does, right? So again, you're looking at this from a consumer standpoint where Alexa devices are all over the world, and someone in Canada versus someone in Texas or someone in Boston is going to have very different accents. And
Mhm.
if you buy this product, you're expecting that if I talk into it, it will be able to act on what I've said.
That's right. And
So it
just
does
to
handle
clarify,
accents.
it is a hardware product that we're talking about. So it's something. It's a physical. I don't have. Wish I had one with my hands right now. This is a curse of working from home. You don't have all this cool gear to play with, but you put it on your desk. You plug it in. You added internet connectivity to it, and it works with the cloud to do the AI transcription. So I guess it's a combination of hardware and software if you look at it, but you
Yep.
buy it as a piece of hardware with a subscription cost added to it. You can find all of these details, of course, on our website, epiphan.com/livescript. It just came out Tuesday, so there's a nice bit of splash there and some nice looking images there too. So, but sorry, I kind of cut you off because I wanted to answer Tim's question, but you were telling me about where
Sure.
humans do better than AI. So maybe
Yeah.
if you can expand upon that a bit more, because I know there's a few more interesting points.
Yeah. So the other thing is that people can interpret and understand what someone is going to say. So I was doing a demo for a customer, and they said, "Hey, we have this YouTube video. Run it through your system and tell me how well it did. Send me back the transcription." And so I ran it through, and I was looking at the transcription, and it was completely accurate. But what the person actually said compared to what they were meaning to say, if you listen closely, they were a little
Hmm.
bit different. So a person is going to be able to go, oh, they slurred that word, but this is actually the word that they were meaning to say. And so they can interpret things that
The
a machine, again,
contextual
can't.
stuff.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so, those are kind of a couple areas where a person is just going to do a little bit better of a job. Post-production is actually another area where a human can do a better job because you can plug the same audio through an AI system and you will get the same results every single time because it's a machine.
Yes.
Um, Whereas if, again, you're going through a video in post-production, you might want to go over a section of it multiple times because there's some background noise happening, or there's some reason why it's not clear. And a person can go through that and go over it multiple times to go, oh, well, that's actually what it is, and get the results. Whereas again, a machine is just, it's going to give you the same results every single time, no matter what you do.
Yeah, right. We have a question here from Tim Trott. Can this be configured for lower thirds? So an obvious use case. How does that work?
Yeah, so with the initial release, the way that we have it set up is you take the output from the hardware and you have that going into a secondary switcher, and you would use that switcher to crop it, and then it would be a lower third. We have added in things like chroma key, so you can chroma key out the background and then have it either be white or black text that show up. And then we've also set it up that you can set it so the text will come down from the top or up from the bottom, depending on which mode you have it in. So if you set it up as a lower third, you would have the text come up from the bottom, and that way it would always be on the screen properly, as opposed to coming down from the top. It would get there eventually, but once it, it would have to work its way down before you would see the transcription show up.
Yeah, that could be a pretty big use case for this product. People using it, especially just for lower thirds.
Hey, Greg, can you try to activate that on the LiveScrypt side, and maybe we can demo it? Try to do it on the fly, see if it'll work. So do the top, bottom up.
Oh, okay, great. Our producer Cameron there, we're gonna do a little on the fly demo here and see if we can get some of the lower third content on this.
Okay.
So this is the voice of God, Free Jones, coming from the live control room here.
And do you want me to turn chroma key on, or how do you have it input in?
We'll just throw it up on the two up with the screen share. So we'll just have a black bar on the bottom, just to have as a quick demo on that.
Okay.
So Greg's going to configure this thing. Cameron's going to produce it, and then we'll show it live and see how that can work. I like when we do last minute experiments on a live show. This is how we do our best work.
I'm just going to stop it, and I'm just going to start it. And it should be whenever you're ready, Cameron.
All right, cool. I'm going to try cropping it here, and while you guys maybe just go on and explain some more of the details on there while I figure that out.
Perfect.
Okay. So it'll be about 40 minutes or so, and then...
Hey, come on.
I would say that from the LiveScrypt side, it was literally 3 button presses, and it's done and ready.
Yes. No, it's really simple. There's not a whole lot to this device. That's kind of one of the beautiful things about it. It is designed to be as simple as possible so that you don't have to spend a lot of time building it, because people will come back to you and say, I can build my own transcription engine. I can get access to Google's cloud engine and pay the fees there and build my own. But that's a pretty tall order. You have to be very technically savvy. You have to build your own scripts to work with their API. They don't really have a great front-end tool for people who just want to build their own. So I encourage you all to try it out and see how it works. We think that eventually you'll decide you want a more resilient solution that's easy to use, and that's when you'll come and want a piece of hardware that just does it for you.
Well,
so there you go. We've got our...
Yeah, so we do talk about that briefly in the paper with NAB. I think we talked about that in the webinar as well. So when we're talking about the accuracy and things like that, we're looking at just the API. But if you're looking at creating your complete transcription solution, there's a bunch of other pieces that need to go into that, right? You have to figure out how you get your audio into the system. If you're going to use a computer, well, how do you get good audio into your computer when you have a USB connection? You're going to have dongles and things like that. And then you have to build your UI interface and then send the information to the cloud, use their APIs, get the results back. How do you display it? Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff on creating a transcription solution. Or you can look at LiveScrypt, where that's already been done for you, right? You plug in a microphone, you plug in internet, you give it power, you hit the start button, you're done. And it is designed to be as simple as we could make this thing to be.
Nice. And on that note, we are also just about done here. I think we've covered quite a bit. So thanks everybody for watching. This has been the Live at Epiphan show. We're here every Thursday at 3 o'clock. We're doing a tremendous amount of webinar content right now and other live videos. So be sure to check out our website for those details, and subscribe to us here on YouTube or Facebook, or if you're that one Twitch subscriber, tell your friend. And because we're here every Thursday and we've got lots of cool things to talk about. So thanks, Greg, for helping make all this work and making a last minute dash to the office to recover for your dodgy internet connection at home.
Yep, perfect. Thanks, George, and thanks, Cameron, too.
Yeah, thanks everybody for watching.
Welcome. And don't forget, next week, we're actually going to be a little bit late in our episode. We're probably going to be coming live at around 3:30, maybe 4 o'clock on Thursday. So please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and you'll get a notification of the exact time. We're going to be doing a little bit of extra production support for one of our media partners next week. So we're going to be a little bit tied up at 3 o'clock next Thursday.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Excellent. Thanks. Bye. That was really good. Yep. It looked really good. Yeah. Yeah. I thought that went way better than the other times that we've done that. Like just from my standpoint, just me just talking as opposed to, you know, having stuff prepared like in depth beforehand. Yeah, I thought that